we checked it and it worked and both equations and all that. Rock on. Thank you so much. Cool. So again, substitution, if you're struggling, or graphing, or anything we've done so far, please come see me, because 2 weeks from today is your unit test. Okay, so 2 weeks from today, unit test. This Friday, as Jessica was over on the agenda showing you, hopefully you noticed a big thing that was at the bottom underneath homework. You're going to have a mini quiz on Friday, which is just going to be over systems. So it's going to be short, but you're going to have the whole 40 minutes to do it. It's going to be one question of each type. All right, so one graphing, one substitution, one elimination, and then that and your first quiz are going to help guide us in figuring out who needs to start doing the mandatory office hours deal. Okay, so that's what to expect on Friday. No note card on Friday. We're going to have you just like try it and see how it goes. All right, here we go. Solving by elimination. We have some art standards in there, but it doesn't count as an art credit. It only counts as a math credit. So we do still have to do the state standards according to what they tell us. Okay? All right, solving systems by elimination. Got our steps happening. And if you're freaking out that we're not doing a note card for this one, just the more you practice, right? That's doing the homework and coming into office hours and talking it through, the less you're even going to need any of that stuff. Okay? All right, so step one is you need to put both equations in standard form. And I would say that the standard form part of your last quiz was probably the strongest section. Like, that seemed to be what most people understood the best. So hopefully that makes this not as difficult. So put both equations in standard form. And standard form, what's the rule with standard form? They can't have what?
Fractions.
Fractions. Get rid of those bad boys. All right, step two. In a couple different examples. And really, the trick to doing that is we're going to use multiplication. All right, step three. Once your we are going to add straight down. Okay, and of course, coefficients one variable are the same with opposite signs. That's what step 2 says, so maybe I should throw that in there. With opposite signs. When I say opposite signs, what does that mean?
One is negative and one is positive.
Good, thank you, Hayden. Just wanted to clarify. I'm sorry, was that a question from somebody? Feel free to move around if you're having troubles. Pilar's also trying to help you. All right, step 4 is then finish solving. Step 5 is going to be find the other variable. Step 6 is write your solution as a point. And step 7 is double check your answer. All right, sorry Jessica, I'm going to erase your really beautiful homework stamp sheet.
That's okay. I'll get over it.
Okay, so let's do an example where you can see this at work. Okay. So there, I knew it was there, so here we go. Y equals 2/3 x minus 1/3. And then the second equation is 3x minus 1/5 y equals 7. So what does step 1 tell us to do? Put them in standard form. So since we did that last week, it's good review. Talk it over with your tables. Put them in standard form. Go. That's on you. If you okay. All right, first equation. Anybody in standard form? Give me my first equation. Caleb.
I thought it was to multiply the denominators by.
Yeah, that's the first step. I'm just asking for the final, what is it in standard form? We're not going to go through it step by step. Alex.
Never mind.
Negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 1.
Are we in agreement with that answer? So I should have subtracted 2/3 x and then multiplied by 3. So I agree with Alex. All right, next one. Kyra.
15x minus y equals 35.
Agreement with that one? Okay, me too. All right, cool. So now I have them in standard form, which I know for some of you is still a stretch because you haven't come in to talk to me about standard form and now we're using it to do other things. This is going to continue happening. Okay, so yet again, I'm going to say common law or tutor. All right, so now they're both in standard form. That was step 1. Step 2 is we are going to, sorry Hayden, what's up?
Oh, I was gonna solve step 2.
Oh, okay, hold on, wait for us. Hayden's like on it, man. All right, so step 2 is we're gonna pick a variable to eliminate. So how many of you in math like to do the same thing every time so you don't get confused? Okay, how many of you is like, whatever, it's like, I can solve it in 7 different ways and you'll be fine? Okay, then more of you should have raised your hand the first time around. All right, anyways, so here's my suggestion. If you like to do the same thing every time, always pick X. We're just gonna pick X every time to eliminate no matter what. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at, I have negative 2x and I have 15x. My job is to make them be the same coefficient, that means the same number out front of x, the same coefficient but with opposite signs. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. One is you can think really, really hard about factors and the least common multiple and all that. So that's one way. The other way, if you just want to go simple and if big numbers don't freak you out, you just always multiply by each other. Okay, so when you did this in 9th grade with, was Kelly, right? Isn't that you all that?
Yeah,
With
Josh.
Okay, so when you did this with Josh, I don't know, maybe he had you do the least common multiple, but your kind of shortcut way is just always multiply by the other one. So I'm going to multiply this one by 15, and I'm going to multiply this one by negative 2. You can always do that. It's always going to work. You might have bigger numbers, but that's okay. Then the thing that always catches people is you have to remember to multiply by that number by everything. So I'm going to multiply this by 15, this by 15, and that one by 15. And that's going to get me negative 30x plus 45y equals negative 15. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom one. I'm going to multiply everything through by negative 2. So that's going to give me negative 30x minus 2y, oops, sorry, plus 2y, equals negative 70. Now, does anybody see any issues? Peyton?
The x coefficients have to be opposite. So you would have to multiply one of the equations by negative 1 to get rid of the negative sign.
Good. So, thank you, Hayden. So, if when you multiply by each other, these don't have opposite signs, you're going to have to take one more step. And that's just multiply one of them by negative 1. So, I'm going to multiply the top one by negative 1. And as you get better at these, you're going to be able to start skipping some of these steps and you're going to figure out better ways. I'm just showing you like your total foolproof way of doing this. So now I'm going to have 30x minus 45y equals 15. And I'm going to have negative 30x plus 2y equals negative 70. Now, I've done step 2. Now step 3 says add straight down. So 30 minus 30, 0. So I have successfully eliminated my x. It's gone. I don't have to worry about it anymore for now. And then I'm going to add this straight down and I'm going to get negative 43y. And then this is going to give me a negative 55. One thing that I would strongly suggest, again, we have you have the calculators for a reason. Let them do the work for you. If you're not great at multiplication, you multiply every single one of those numbers. Who cares that you're multiplying by 1? It's okay. Okay, if you've ever had any teacher in the past make you feel bad when you're using the calculator and they're like, you shouldn't need the calculator for that. Well, okay, maybe you shouldn't, but check your answer. And I'm never gonna make you feel bad for using the calculator. We want you to have them. And it's going to be in your best interest to use them to help you in this class. Okay? So now I have this. How would I finish? Yeah, divide by negative 43. And hopefully you've realized by now that I'm not afraid of raunchy, ugly, gross numbers. Right? They're going to happen more often in real life than nice numbers are. So typically for me, you are not going to see pretty answers like 3, 2. It's not going to happen very often. All right, then one thing that I noticed on the quiz, a lot of you are leaving your answer like this and you're not having your calculator help you reduce it. So in your calculators, let's practice right now. Do negative 55. Did I mess up my Bella?
No.
Okay. Go ahead. What were you going to say? It does.
Reduces into a decimal.
But then we're going to put it as a fraction. What do I mean when I say it? And Ella's right in a way that she's saying that it doesn't reduce. Lilith.
It turns positive.
Guys, it turns positive. We are never going to leave an answer on anything with 2 negatives in it. Okay, so that's what I mean by reduce. Don't be afraid to use your calculator to have it help you do that. So I'm going to end up with 55/43. Again, super ugly, but that's okay. And now we're where we were at with substitution. We found one of our answers. We're going to go back to an original equation. We're going to plug it in for y. I'm going to go right here into this one, and then we're going to find x. So I'm going to have 3x minus 1/5 times 55/43 equals 7. And then we're going to use our calculators to help us because that is gross. Can somebody do this 1/5 times this 55/43 for me?
It's 11/43.
11/43. Thanks, Hayden. Okay, now I know some of you are still having a bit of troubles with your solving because the fractions are still freaking you out. How would I go from here? What would I do? I have 3x minus 11/43 equals 7. What would my next step be? Go ahead, Adam. Add the fraction to the other side. And same thing, we're going to let the calculator do the work for us. And then I'm going to tell you a trick before we finish. So if somebody could add that 7 and 11/43 for me. Anybody have it yet? Addie, go ahead.
312/44.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I got too. All right, now, a lot of you, how many of you, every time you're using your calculator, are hitting clear before you do the next thing? Okay, stop doing that. Because this, right now I'm going to divide by 3, right? But here's the trick. Your calculator is not thinking of this as a number by itself right now. It's going to like do some weirdness if you don't use parentheses. So you're going to keep this answer in there, and then you're going to just press the divide key and then by 3. So keep this 312/43 in there, and if you need to go back a step to get it in your calculator again, do that, and then just hit divide by 3, and then you'll get your answer. Which should be 104/43, right? Okay. Now some of the newer calculators, that's not an issue, but the older ones is definitely issue, and I think for everybody, just keep your answer in there and then do your division. No big deal. Come on, what's up? Yes, you may. Okay. Shoo! So now I have X, now I have Y. Write it as a point. And then I'm going to show my double checks by plugging those answers into both of my original starter equations. So my first one is going to be 55/43 equals 2/3 times 104/43 minus 1/3. And again, I just have to put the more complicated side into my calculator. So I'm just putting in this side. And it should equal 55/43 if we've done it right. And then same thing for the next one. I'm going to have 3 times 104/43 minus 1/5 times 104/43. And that should equal 7. And we're going to type that left side in. Now, all your problems will not be as complicated as this or as ugly answers as this. But like I said, expect more fraction answers than not. And I'm fairly certain those both work out. But I know some of you are out there doing it, which is awesome. Thank you. So before we give you the homework, what questions do you have about elimination at this point? Looking at the work, now you will also notice I tried to stay super organized. That's another issue with solving systems as you get more complicated, is figuring out a way to keep yourself organized so that you're not all over the paper for one problem and then you can't find stuff. So, what questions can I answer that will help clarify or help you move forward with your elimination work? Audrey.
Why do you multiply -1 to 1 equation?
Great question, Audrey, thank you. So when I first started this and this, they were the same number, but my rule is they have to be the same number, but with opposite signs. So because this one is -30 and because this one is also -30, I needed one of them to be positive.
It can be either one,
It can be either one.
and it's always -1.
You would multiply by -1 to help you get those numbers. Yes. Yes. Great question. Thank you so much. Ella.
Yeah, I was about to point that out too. You put it as two y's.
Oh, thank you. No wonder people are out there going, it's not working. Thank you. There, is that better? Okay, and did it work for both? I'm sorry, I kind of moved on, but we still working on it? So Audrey had a great question. What else can I answer that will help you before you start doing these on your own? Okay. So, yeah, Lila, go ahead. Try putting your 1/5 in parentheses as well. See if that helps. And then I'll come to you if it doesn't work. Okay? All right, so just to give you timeline, today we have about 10 minutes left. I am going to give you homework. And the homework has a mixture, first two problems are